We have two predominant forces in the world. Two predominant forces, the force of love and the force of hate. These are the two predominant forces we have in the world. Now, the force of love generates life, and the force of hate leads to death. So love leads to life, leads to communion, to fellowship, to relationship, to community. On the other hand, hate leads to death, division. So Jesus came that we may have life. John chapter 10, verse 10. He came that we may have life and have it in abundance. But the devil came to kill, to steal, and to destroy. So we see how the force of love gives rise to life. I mean, how do we live our lives without love? How do we live our lives without family, without relationships? So it is so important, my dear friends, we appreciate the power of love. And when we reflect on this hate, the force of hate, we come to see what took place in the first reading, the Garden of Eden, and how that family degenerated into division. Division in the family of Adam. And how divided are we today? How divided are we today? In fact, you and I know this, that there are those families, and in some families, there are those topics you don't talk about. You don't talk about some topics in some families because those are hot button topics. If you go that route and you want to talk about those topics, you might bring down the roof of the house. You might actually offend someone, you might offend someone who may not want to talk to you again because you've just raised this topic. Let's have a conversation. But that is how divided we are today. And sometimes I wonder, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point of division? And how I see that we just cannot disagree to agree anymore. Why the division? We look at the first reading and we come to see this division in the first reading. We come to see the cause of this division. God asked Adam. God asked him this question: "Where are you?" What was the response of Adam? "I am naked." Now, what is the relationship between the first question and the response? God asked a question: "Where are you?" We could call it a question of geography. "Where are you, Adam?" And Adam gave a response of biology. I am naked. And why did he do that? Well, because he was guilty. He was guilty. And when we are guilty, you know what happens when we're guilty? We could say things we're not supposed to say. That's what happens when we're guilty. We say things we're not supposed to say. If I am guilty, for instance, and you come to me and you ask me, "How are you for the FrAmbrose?" I may just tell you, "Oh, it is 9 o'clock. That is not the answer to the question. But it is because I am hiding something. I'm guilty. So I'm giving a wrong answer to a right question. But we come to see the source of division. Why are we divided? Why are we so divided? Look at it in the first reading, the blame game. The blame game. Adam blamed everybody. Adam blamed God. Adam blamed Eve. Adam said, it was the woman you put by my side. Is that a familiar response? Why the woman? It was the woman you put by my side. Okay, no longer the wife, no longer my helpmate, but now the woman you put by my side. Tell me about giving a dog a bad name. So you could see that. The woman you put on my side, she gave me the fruit in the middle of the garden to eat. She is responsible. And then the woman also blamed the serpent. The serpent gave it to me. Well, the serpent had only itself to blame. But you could see the blame game. No one took responsibility. No one. That is what causes division. I am not wrong. I am always right. You are wrong. I am not wrong. You are to be blamed. Don't hold me responsible. So I am always right, and you are always wrong. That is the source of division. And I reflected on this. For those who are always right, there are two possibilities for those who are always right. It is either you are a God, because I know that it is only God who is right. God is always right. I know that. I know we all know that too. God is always right. So it is either you are a God, or you could just be a very sick person who is in need of help. Because no one is always right. But we see this, my dear friends, as the cause of division. When it is always you against me, me against you, and that is life. Life is just all about you against me, me against you. And how do we see people? White, black, red, blue. That is all we see. We no longer see human beings. We just see the color of the skin. White, black, red, blue. And that is all. We are going to be divided. Because we don't recognize our common elements that bind us together. And that was exactly what Christ came to challenge in this gospel. Christ, he gave a good trouble, a very good trouble. What Christ did was to challenge the conventional mindset of his people. He came and he said, anyone who does the will of my Father is my brother, my sister, my mother. Christ was not denying his mother, because Mary was the first in the new dispensation to do the will of God. So it was a confirmation of the place of Mary in his life. So he was not denying Mary. Anyone who does the will of my Father is my brother, my sister, my mother. Jesus, by saying this, is expanding the family of God. That it has to go beyond blood. It has to go beyond race. It has to go beyond color. The family of God must be spiritual. Anyone who does the will of God. Anyone who is truly good is my brother, is my sister. Anyone who truly cares. Anyone who is truly transparent. I have my family in Nigeria. But here with you, I feel truly welcomed and I feel truly loved. So in you I see brothers and sisters. In you I see family. This is the family of God's people. This is exactly what Christ is saying. That our family must go beyond blood. It must be defined by our spiritual affinity to God. It must be defined by our spiritual relationship with God. And that's exactly what he came to do, to challenge this mindset of his people. And guess what? They thought he was out of his mind. That's what they said. They thought he was out of his mind. How difficult it is to be an agent of change. It takes a lot to be an agent of change. Positive change, radical change, difficult change. It takes a lot, because people might call you names. People might think you are out of your mind, because you are representing this change that God has ordained. It was the case with Jesus. The scribes accused him of casting out demons by the prince of demons, because they just could not understand him. But that is exactly our vocation, called to be signs of contradiction. We may not always be understood, but what we do out of love, true love for God's people. And sometimes we could see, my dear friends, how difficult it is to even embrace change. How difficult it is to change. People hardly change because we just want to remain in our comfort zones. We hardly change. And we come to see the relationship between the messenger and the message. Okay, if you do not like the messenger, then what about the message? Sometimes we reject the message because of the messenger. Oh, we don't like the way he looks. We don't like the way he talks. But that is beyond the message. What about the message? So if we do not like the messenger, fine. But the message could be the truth that we need at that point in time. It could be the change that we need, that invitation for us to change. He's inviting us on this day, my dear friends, to open up ourselves to the change that he has come to bring. The reason why we have a relationship, how do we follow Jesus Christ as disciples? How do we effectively follow Jesus Christ if we are not open to change? The difficult change, the positive change, the radical change. How do we follow Christ effectively if we are not open to the change he has come to bring, to change our mindset? Because you cannot change a person if you do not change the mind of the person, the way the person thinks, the way the person perceives the world around them. So this is the invitation we have on this day, to embrace this radical change that Jesus has come to bring. It may be difficult, no doubt about that. Recall the disciples, when he called them, they left everything and followed him. They changed. It may be difficult to change. It may be like a bitter pill. I'm trying to swallow this bitter pill because he is challenging me. My conventional mindset, my preconceived ideas, he is challenging those mindsets because he wants us to be renewed from the inside. St. Paul says that the body, he says, the old body is washing away, is casting away, but he says the mind is being renewed. And that is a change we're called to embrace, the renewal of our minds. It may be difficult, my dear friends, but the outcome is always beautiful. The outcome of every change is always beautiful because in his time, God makes all things beautiful.